Roddy's story. I'm an ex-international cyclist. I've represented Scotland and Great Britain on many occasions. This is me winning one of Great Britain's biggest races, riding for Scotland. I broke Graham O'Bree's Scottish 1 hour record, covering just under 30 miles in an hour. I represented Scotland in the 1994 Commonwealth Games. It was the first time that the Commonwealth Games were open to professional cyclists, so we were racing against guys that had just come out of the Tour de France. I finished 9th in the Commonwealth Games. That's me with the bumblebee glasses on there. The guy in front of me was an Australian rider called Bill Anderson. He was the first Australian rider to wear the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. The Tour of Ireland is a 9-day race where you cover 900 miles, so 100 miles every day for 9 days. I've won stages in it. That's me winning a stage riding for Scotland. And the guy behind me there is an Australian rider called Patrick Yonker, who went on to be a very, very successful domestique in the professional peloton. I finished 4th overall in the race twice as well. I retired from cycling in 1996 and wanted to emulate my brother Kenny, who'd won a big duathlon in Scotland called the Highland Cross. So when I retired from cycling, I entered the Highland Cross in 1997. I finished first in the cycling section, and because I'd only retired from cycling 6 months earlier, I hoped that no one would catch me in the cycle, and they didn't, so I was one of the biggest winning margins in the Highland Cross. 10.5 years ago, almost to the day, some severe things started happening to my body. I lost almost 3 stone in the space of 6 to 8 weeks. I was constantly going to the toilet. I had a severe thirst, and I also had blurred vision. My wife, who was very heavily pregnant with our youngest child, Finlay, got very concerned about this 3 stone of weight loss. So she went online and did a bit of research and ordered a home self-testing kit for type 1 diabetes. That arrived on the Monday. I did the test and it looked like, yes, you've got type 1 diabetes. I had a dilemma. I had a ticket for the UEFA Cup final that Wednesday to watch Glasgow Rangers take on some Russian team. And I knew that if I went to the doctor wouldn't allow me to go to the cup final to watch Glasgow Rangers take on this Russian team. So I decided to wing it and make an appointment for the doctor the day after the cup final. So my mate Stevie said, I'll drive the 6 hours down to Manchester, we'll watch the game, and then you drive home. So Stevie drove down to Manchester, we watched the game, not because Rangers got beat, but because I was tired and lethargic leading up to the symptoms of being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. After the game, we got in the car and I was to start driving home, but it started to drizzle with rain, and because it started to rain and it was dark and the oncoming car headlights and my blurred vision, it made it very dangerous for me to drive home. So my friend Stevie, who'd driven the 6 hours down in the morning, had to drive all the way back up to Inverness, 6 hours. Next morning, I got on my bike and I rode to my doctor's surgery. My doctor did some tests and it looked like, yes, you've got type 1 diabetes. So he phoned Raigmore Hospital, which is the hospital I was born in, and they said, get him up straight away. So I got back on my bike, rode to the hospital. The doctors had loads of tests that day and they diagnosed me with type 1 diabetes. The diabetic specialist doctor said to me, how did you get here today? I said, I cycled. He says, you're lucky you've not gone into diabetic coma, and it's probably just your fitness that stopped you going into diabetic coma. Somebody without type 1 diabetes, blood glucose level is between 4 and 7. Their pancreas keeps it that way. My blood glucose level that day was 45.6. So I was taught how to inject insulin and things, and I started injecting insulin 4 times a day. This is the week I was diagnosed. You can see the weight loss. We had people coming into our cycle shop in Inverness saying, "You're looking very fit, you must be doing lots of training." But it was actually the very opposite. I was doing no training because I was tired and lethargic, leading up to the symptoms of being diagnosed with type 1. My youngest boy, Finley, was born the week that I was diagnosed. Why did I decide to do the Marathon des Sables? I decided to do the Marathon des Sables because when I was diagnosed with type 1, I knew nothing about the condition, and that really embarrassed me because I've raced all over the world with Scotland and Great Britain, and I thought, if I know nothing about type 1 diabetes, the chances are the majority of folk in the street know nothing about type 1 diabetes. So I put on my social media, I put on Facebook and Twitter that I wanted to do something to raise awareness for type 1 diabetes. And my physio, David Brandy, who is the head physio for the Scottish Institute of Sport, he got back to me on Twitter and said, "Marathon des Sables." And I thought, well, I've heard of the Marathon des Sables because I knew a friend that had done it before, and he said he would only recommend it to folk that he absolutely hated because it was so hard. So I thought, well, if he's saying that, it must be really tough. So I phoned the organisation and told them that I'm an ex-international cyclist, recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and was wanting to raise awareness. And along the way, I actually raised over £30,000 for 2 diabetes charities as well, JDRF and Diabetes UK. So the organiser said to me, "Give me your email address and we will get back to you within the next 2 weeks to let you know if we can get you into the 2013 event." That afternoon, I got an email saying that they managed to get me in. So I got back to David, my physio, on Twitter, and I went, "You dancer, David, I've managed to get into next year's Marathon des Sables." Which he replied, "You idiot, I was only joking about the Marathon des Sables." But I was quite happy that I was in and I was going to be raising awareness for diabetes. In the Marathon des Sables, it's a self-sufficient race where you carry all your own kit. It's 156 miles. This is who I shared my bivouac with, and your bivouac is your all-inclusive accommodation, and all it is a rug on the ground, 2 poles and a tarpaulin over you. We called ourselves the Tartan Army. We were all Scottish except for the guy in the middle, Steve Drake, who's a Michelin star chef from London. But we adopted him as a Scotsman for the week, and we actually had him singing Flower of Scotland by the end of the week. Because the Marathon des Sables is a self-sufficient race, and you've got to carry all your own food, I decided to treat myself for breakfast that day because I wasn't actually having to carry it. So I had a tin of creamed rice. What a mistake, what a mistake. So everyone's on the start line of one of the toughest races in the world. And all I'm concerned about, because of this tin of creamed rice, is my blood glucose levels, because I don't normally eat creamed rice. So I'm on the start line doing blood glucose tests to make sure that it's safe for me to be able to continue and do the first stage. And that's all I'm concerned about, and everybody else in the start line is concerned about the race. As it turned out, I got my blood glucose levels under control and the stage went okay. My biggest fear before the Marathon des Sables wasn't things like scorpions and snakes. It was actually blisters on my feet. Because with being type 1 diabetic, if you get blisters in your feet and they get infected, you can end up getting your legs amputated, which is not an ideal situation. The organisers recommend that you go between 1 shoe size to 2 shoe sizes bigger in your shoes to allow for swelling. I went half a shoe size bigger, And the slight movement with that extra little bit of room in my shoe caused 2 tiny blisters in the balls of my feet. And that was the only issues I had throughout the race with my feet. This is your view from your all-inclusive accommodation. The sunsets and sunrises were absolutely stunning every day and every night. Stage 2 was 31 kilometres, very, very hilly. We were up over 3 mountains. I actually took this photo, so you can see I'm not actually last. There's quite a lot of people behind me. Before I went to the Marathon Sabla, I had vertigo, which is a fear of heights. That ridge that I'm pointing back on, we had to go across that ridge, and if the finish line was at the other end, I would have turned around and gone back. But I had to get over my fear of vertigo and get over that ridge. That's the drop off the ridge. The final ascent of the day, the bottom part of it was 25%, which is 1 in 4 gradient, and the top part was 50%, which is 1 in 2 gradient. The organisers actually bolted a rope into the rock to help you get up over the final part. That's our adopted Scotsman, Steve, pointing up at the hill saying, they're not putting us up over that, but they did. When I downloaded my CGM data when I got home from the Marathon Sabla, I managed to control my blood glucose during this stage almost within a person without type 1 diabetes, just by keeping an eye on the trend arrows on my continuous glucose monitor. If you remember, I said somebody without type 1 diabetes is between 4 and 7. During that stage, I was 3.7 to 6.3. This is Derek. Derek was the hypochondriac. Derek is really a hypochondriac. Always something wrong with Derek. By the end of the race, Derek actually looked a bit like a mummy because he had bandages all over his body. Before the longest stage was 77 kilometres, I decided to treat myself to a fresh top, a fresh pair of shorts, and a fresh pair of socks. And walking to the start line off the longest stage, it looked like I'd been the only person to treat myself to new clothes. Because I looked a bit like a welder's flash compared to everybody else, because I was so bright with all the clean clothes on. During the longest stage, it was 52 degrees for 3 hours. Crazy things go through your head when you're doing a long stage like this. I looked down at my shadow and thought I was Darth Vader. But these are just silly things that go through your head. The night before the longest stage, the organisers knew it was going to be very warm, so they recommended that you did it with people that were compatible with you. So I ran it with our adopted Scotsman, Steve, and Andy behind him. We did the whole stage together. If you finish the longest stage in one day, the organisers give you the next day as a rest day. We finished the longest stage in a day. Now it was really strange for me to get a rest day because we've only raced for 4 days. I used to race the bike for 9 days with no rest days. I would have sooner the organisers let us just carry on and finish the final stage. It did give me an opportunity to fit a fresh cannula for my insulin pump, put fresh insulin into my pump, and just do general diabetic checks. That's me there with my onesie, which was just a police forensic suit because at night time it tended to get a wee bit cooler. This is Angela. Angela was in the bivouac next to us. This was her feet, what a mess they were in. That was her other foot. Angela had to get carried to the start of the final stage, which was a traditional 26.2 mile stage. But when the gun goes off, the least of your worries are things like blisters like this. And Angela, who's a complete real trooper, finished the stage with feet in that condition. Emails meant so much to me. I was allocated one email to send a day, but I could receive numerous emails. My one email I sent to my brother Kenny, who had my passwords for my Twitter and Facebook account. So because I'd raised so much money for JDRF and Diabetes UK, they were retweeting my tweets and emails. So I was receiving emails from all over the world. One particular email still sticks in my mind, and it was from a family of a 13-year-old girl whose child had type 1 diabetes, who said to me, because I was doing this event, they were changing their attitude and they were going to allow their 13-year-old child to have a sleepover at their friend's house. So when times were hard throughout the marathon Sabla, I just had to think back to these emails and it helped me push through. This is what you're left with. It's at 6 o'clock in the morning, the bivouac labourers come along, they take away your tarpaulin and your 2 poles, you're left with your magic carpet, and then it allows you to make your breakfast and get organised for the day. That's not pee in front of the carpet. That was my second biggest fear after blisters, was toilets. I'm very much a homeboy toilet person. I like my home luxuries of my own toilet. So the toilets were a big worry for me. But as it turned out, they turned out to be pretty good. Friday's a marathon stage, 26.2 traditional 42 kilometre stage. Everything went okay until 13 miles in. I could feel something loose in my stomach. My cannula had come off for my insulin pump. Not too much a problem. If I need to, I've got my insulin pens in my backpack. So all I did was keep an eye on my CGM readings. If I seen them drop, I would take food on board. And if I seen them rise, I could have got my insulin pens out. As it turned out, the stage went okay. That's me at the finish, holding my insulin pump and my medal. What did I learn from the Marathon de Sable? I learned you can't go down to your local shop and buy a Haynes manual on type 1 diabetes, because although my food was the same every day except for the creamed rice on day 1, the temperature was nearly the same every day, and the stage lengths were nearly the same except for the 77 kilometre stage. My insulin requirements changed every single day. When I'm here or at home, I normally take 40 units of insulin a day. During the Marathon Sabla, I was between 9 and 13 units total insulin a day, because the exercise was doing the work of my pump. So the Tartan Army decided we were going to have a reunion in 2014. Normally, people that have a reunion just go down to the local pub, have a meal and a few beers with your mates. The Tartan Army don't do things that easy. We decided we would do an 85 kilometre ultramarathon in Scotland and then have a meal after it. This is me with my adopted Scotsman Steve. During the event, 18 miles into the event, my cannula came off because I had a bum bag. Now there's still 35 miles to go to the finish line. Not too much a problem, I've got spare cannulas. Well, it is a problem because your cannulas are in your bag at the finish line. Okay, 35 miles to go. I can't get insulin. What do I do? If I can't get insulin, I can't eat. So I ran the last 35 miles solely drinking water. And all I did was keep an eye on my CGM readings. If I seen my CGM arrows going down, I put in a really short, intense sprint, which releases glycogen from the liver, which would slightly rise up my blood glucose level. If I seen my trend arrows going up, I would take my feet off the gas to keep them level. When I downloaded my CGM, the night before the race, we went down and stayed with the hypochondriac Derek down in Glasgow. Now, I don't like seeing double figures in my blood glucose, but Derek made lasagna and sticky toffee pudding. So I went to bed at 15. We got up at 4 o'clock in the morning with porridge and homemade bread, toast. So I'm above 20 on the way to the race. So on the way to the race, which started at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm taking insulin, but hoping not to take too much insulin so that I don't dip too much. The race started at 6. My cannula ripped off at 10 o'clock, and I finished the race at 4 o'clock. You can see that although I did many hours of this race just drinking water, I almost did it in a person without type 1 diabetes range by controlling it, keeping an eye on my trend arrows, and putting in the short intense sprints if I seen them dropping. When I finished the race, because I had not got insulin for the previous hours, my blood glucose level went really high till I got a fresh cannula on and got insulin to get it back under control. As I say, I like to give myself a goal every year, and in 2015 I decided to do the 116-mile Great Glen Ultra, which I actually finished third in, and I've actually given the charity this very talk that I raced this race in, and as I say, I finished third in it. It was all going well till 30 kilometres to go. I was in a place called Dramnadrochit, which is on the shores of Loch Ness, close to where I live. And because it rained all through the night, my sensor for my CGM came off. So I went into my backpack, got my blood glucose monitor out, put a test strip in, took some blood. The test strip wouldn't read because they were so wet. So I had to run the last 30 kilometres not knowing what my blood glucose level was. As it turned out, I did it on feel, and it turned out okay, and as I say, I finished third in the race. This is me with my family, my wife, my oldest boy Alistair, Isla, my middle girl, and Finley, who's the lad that was born the week I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I've already said I like to give myself a goal, so in 2016 I did a bit of research and found the beast, the 6633. I arrived there with all the other competitors, Vlad, Tibby, and all the others. Now, the 6633 is a completely different beast from the Marathon des Sables. The 6633, in the Marathon des Sables, there was 1,050 competitors in it. There's not that many idiots will take on the 6633. In 2016, there was 13 of us on the start line. We were in Whitehorse at the hotel, and I arrived 5 days before we were to travel up to Eagle Plains, and my bag didn't arrive. My bag went missing in London. So I was not sleeping, worrying about my bag not arriving. I actually had my first cold sore since being diagnosed with type 1, just with fear of my bag not arriving and the stress of not sleeping. So the day that Tibby and Vlad and all the other athletes travelled up to Eagle Plains, Kevin, one of the helpers, said to me, right, I'll wait for the evening flight and hopefully your bag will arrive. The evening flight, my bag finally arrived, but I had not been sleeping, so I went into the race quite sleep deprived. The only blessing for myself and Kevin from my bag going missing is we seen a family linked across the road between Whitehorse and Eagle Plains. There's people stay in the Yukon who have never seen links, never mind a family of them. So, the beast is a 567-kilometre ultramarathon from Eagle Plains to Tuktoyaktuk which are probably not pronounced properly, so I'll just call it TAC from now on. The race is on the Dempster Highway, which is renowned for blowing big trucks over and things. That's me in the start line with the other 12 athletes. Going through the Arctic Circle, I was going quite well. I was lying in second place. This section here, Windy Alley, this is the part that's renowned for blowing the big trucks over. I don't know if you get the program here, Ice Road Truckers, but they do some of the series of Ice Road Truckers on this bit of road. Day 2, I was with PJ. PJ is from Singapore. PJ eventually finished second in the race. PJ said to me, we were about 10 kilometres from the checkpoint, and PJ said to me, I'm really tired, I'm going to have to stop at the side of the road and have a rest. I said to PJ, no, it's only 10 kilometres to the checkpoint, I'm just going to carry on. So I carried on, and then I started hallucinating. I was convinced I was in the wrong bit of road, and I was going up and down this road. There is only one road from Eagle Plains to TAC, but I was convinced I was on the wrong one. So I'm going up and down this road, hallucinating. My wife, who was watching my spot tracker at home, was convinced I was having a hypo with my diabetes, and that's why I was going up and down the road. But it wasn't, it was hallucinations. So we were only supposed to be doing 110 kilometres that 24 hours, but because I got lost, or thought I was lost, I ended up doing 136 kilometres that day. Day 3 of the race and day 2 of my hallucinations, I'm getting quite close to the checkpoint, and Johnny, the medic, came out to check on me. I was convinced Johnny was head of SAS recruitment, and Johnny was putting me through my final part of SAS training. I didn't have a phone, but I phoned the Ministry of Defence twice to say that there was mine bombs in the ground and it wasn't a safe environment for anyone to be on. 2 of my friends from Inverness in Scotland have invented these treadmills that they put at bus stops at the UK. They haven't, but this was going through my head. So that people waiting for their bus can do their exercise, and then when their bus comes along, they can hop off and go off to work. They exported all these treadmills to this bit of road I'm on, and I'm on these treadmills, and I'm getting nowhere. And I'm shouting and swearing at Ewan and Ross to switch these treadmills off, and they wouldn't switch them off. That was just another hallucination. I eventually got into my sleeping bag, chuffed to bits with myself, very, very pleased that I'm now a qualified SAS soldier. And because I'd done so well in my training, they were going to give me the next day off and drive me 55 miles to the next checkpoint. It was only after 2 hours sleep that I realised it was all hallucinations, and I was having to get my shoes back on and get back out there. Day 4, absolute disaster, 16 kilometres in. I finished my camelback bladder in my backpack, so I stopped, got my flasks out, got my energy drink, filled my camelback bladder with energy drink and my flasks, put my flasks back in my pallet, put my bladder back in my backpack, put everything back on, didn't put the top on properly. Because I was rushing, 3 litres of fluid poured all over me. Now the temperatures are not that warm in the Arctic, as you can imagine. Luckily for me, Kevin, who was my saviour for my bag being missing, turned up just as this had happened. If this had happened the next day, where I didn't see a single person or car for 10 hours, I can almost guarantee I would not be stood in front of you. I would have frozen to death with 3 litres of fluid over my clothes. Because you don't have a complete change of clothes with you, and that clothes would have just frozen me to death. But luckily for me, Kevin came along. So Kevin said, what are we going to do? So Kevin says, right, what we'll need to do is get you back to the checkpoint. We'll mark where you are in the road. We'll dry all your clothes and then take you back to where you were. That was me, lost another 3 hours. So losing 6 hours when PJ went for a sleep, and now losing another 3 because of my own stupidity, not putting the top on properly, I'm now falling well behind the other athletes. The biggest mistake for me in 2016, I was the only athlete in the field that had a 2-wheeled pulk. Everyone else had a 4-wheeled pulk. Now the big issue with the 2-wheeled pulk is it bobbed like that. And I had a waist harness, so the bobbing of the pulk caused severe back trouble for me. At one stage I actually started pushing the pulk that way. That didn't work very well. I eventually got on to the final 200 kilometres, 120 miles, and it's on the frozen Mackenzie River. As I said, I'm now well behind the other athletes. My back is in absolute bits. I had to make quite a serious decision. I had to decide I needed to pull out of the race. I pulled out of the race just over 100 kilometres from the finish. It was a tough decision to make, but it was one that I think was a smart decision. When I pulled out, Martin, the organiser, put this on the Facebook page, basically saying, Roddy's done himself proud. If he gets the opportunity to come back, I'm sure he'll come back stronger, and maybe luck will be more on his side. So 2017, an unfinished business. I felt in 2016 I let myself down. I felt I let my friends and family down. But more importantly, I felt I let the world diabetes community down by pulling out. Because I knew there were so many folk all around the world following my progress throughout the race. And that really upset and disappointed me. So I knew I didn't have an option. I had to go back in 2017 and finish unfinished business. Christmas Day 2016, 12 weeks before the race, I thought, marginal gains. I'm going out for a run, because the chances are the other athletes aren't out running, but I dare say Tibby probably was. So I went out for a 7-mile run on Christmas Day. I'm about 200 metres from my house, and I was in quite deep leaves, and there was a stone, and I went over my left ankle, and I heard a crack. So this was Christmas Day. I limped back to the house where my wife was cooking Christmas dinner. She looked at it and she goes, "You're going to have to go to hospital." So I went up to hospital on Christmas Day. The doctor looked at my ankle and said, "That doesn't look good." Now, when she said that, that really worried me, because when I was younger, I'd broken my right ankle 5 times and my left ankle once, and I knew if it was broken, I wouldn't be on the start line in 2017. They did an X-ray and it came back that it was just ligament damage with a tiny little hairline fracture. So on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, my physio David, who was the one that recommended the Marathon Sabla, he came round, looked at my ankle and said, "You can put weight on it, carry on training." 2 weeks after doing this, I was back out with my friend Dougal, and we did 42 miles one day and then 38 miles the next day on an ankle in that condition. But I knew I didn't have an option. So 2017, there was 26 idiots on the start line, not just 13. That's me on the start line. I was probably already a minute behind Tibby, and we'd only been going for a minute. Main difference for me in 2017 was I had a 4-wheeled pulk and a full upper body harness. I did a lot of the 2017 race with a guy called Greg from New Zealand. That's us at the first checkpoint. The Northern Lights are absolutely amazing. You do the 6633 with hardly any sleep. I actually did the whole of the 2017 race with a total of 18 hours sleep. So it means that you're doing a lot of it through the night. But the Northern Lights really give you a lift and give you extra energy to help you get through it. Greg turned around me quite well into the race and said that he was really struggling to keep up with me. He said, "You're going to have to charge on your own." And I said, "No, Greg, I want to do this and do it with you." And Greg goes, "No, seriously, Roddy, you need to do your own race plan. Please just go." So I had to make another tough decision and leave Greg. This is when I left Greg. Just after leaving Greg had to stop and have a sleep. So I probably did the right decision to go on myself. The last 241 kilometres I did completely solo. I eventually caught up with an English guy called David. But David got pulled out at one of the checkpoints with frostbite in his feet. This is the checkpoint that David got pulled out at. You can see the Northern Lights again are stunning. Now that's not David in a body bag in my belt. That just so happens to look the way my bag was packed. My insulin, when I went to put new insulin into my insulin pump, had completely frozen. So I had to get my flasks out of my pulp, defrost my insulin so I could put fresh insulin into my pump. My CGM eventually packed in, so I had no way really of telling on the move what my blood glucose levels were. So I took out for the first time my blood glucose monitor, took a strip out of its pouch, put it into the blood glucose monitor, and the blood glucose monitor said it couldn't read the strips because the strips were so cold. So what I had to do was put my little tube of strips down my private parts for 20 minutes so that I could get them to the correct temperature to find out what my blood glucose level was. It was that or it was race over. The 2017 race was filmed by a Japanese film crew who put together an absolute amazing 90-minute documentary. On the Mackenzie River, I was filmed live with CBC News. This is the Mackenzie River. When it's frozen, it's actually 3 metres thick, and that's how the big Arctic lorries can go over it. At one stage, the organisation told me that I was only 4 kilometres behind Tibby. Now I hadn't seen Tibby since the start line.
Now you are closer.
This is with 80 kilometres to go. This is a checkpoint called Swimming Point. I gets into the trailer and I'm like, whoa, there's Tibby. Couldn't believe it. Because as I said, I'd not seen him since the start line. That's the closest I got to Tibby throughout the race. And just after I'd arrived, Tibby decided he'd had enough and he took off to do the final 80 kilometres to cut. This is the legend himself at the finish, looking a tad cold. So if you remember, I said that I started to hallucinate in day 2, the first time I did it. I didn't actually start hallucinating until 5 kilometres to the finish line. Now, I think the reason I started to hallucinate was I finished the race at 28 minutes past 8 in the morning. And with 16 kilometres to go, it was dark, but I could see the lights of the hamlet of Tuck light up the skies. And when I seen that with 16 kilometres to go, I said to myself, you dancer, you've done it. Now your brain is a very, very strong thing. When I said to myself that I'd done it with 16 kilometres to go, I let all my defences down. And I'm convinced that's why I started hallucinating. And the hallucinations were The snowbanks at the side were people putting their hands out, begging, and there was a massive hole in the road to my left that if I was to slow down, I would fall in that hole. Now I decided to listen to my body this year, in 2017, and I decided to go into my palk, get my flasks out, put energy drink into the cap, make that an energy drink. By the time I packed everything away, the road had gone, and also the snowbank was back in the snowbank, and it wasn't people begging. So it was worthwhile listening to my body rather than losing 6 hours thinking I was on the road or training for the SAS. It was definitely the right thing to do. Going up the finish straight and tack was very, very emotional. I do not have a religious bone in my body. But 4 years ago, and 2 weeks, I lost a very, very close friend. He was like a brother to myself and my brother. Aldo was a manager when I raced for Scotland, and he lost his fight with cancer 4 years ago. Aldo used to carry a Buddha about with him and take the Buddha out every now and then and rub its head. Ever since Aldo's passed away, I started collecting Buddhas, and I carried my son Alistair's little blue Buddha, and I carried a brass one that my wife bought for me. And throughout the race, every now and then, I would take the Buddhas out and rub their heads and think of Aldo. Going up the finish straight, I took the two Buddhas out and rubbed their heads. And as I said, I do not have a religious bone in my body. But I looked up and thanked Aldo for looking over me and helping me get through the race. Well, if I did, I cried the whole way up the finish straight. Just before I got to the finish line, I managed to control my tears and cross the line. That's me holding my brass Buddha. You can see the icicles where I've been crying. You've got 8 days to do the race. I did the race in 6 days, 21 hours, finished in second place. I got the 6th fastest time in the history of the race. I'm the first Scotsman to beat the beast of the race. This was Peter. Peter was in the race. He got pulled out with frostbite. That's his finger. That was his other finger. But the medical team, if you've got frostbite, they'll generally pull you out of the race. That was my left heel throughout the race. I believe you've got 7 layers of skin, and I think I was through 5 layers of skin. But my medical team, my podiatrist back in the UK, told me that I've actually healed Parlopan quicker than somebody without type 1 diabetes because my control is so good. If you've seen my heel now, you would not believe the transformation from when it was there. When I got home from the race, I had frost nipped on my fingers, but that healed very quickly. Now, don't know if anyone uses Fitbits, but I believe that they recommend that you do 10,000 steps a day. During the 663, I did 704,000 steps. That's my story. Thanks very much for listening.
Diabet și pentru noi toți, dacă aveți întrebări, vă rog, nu vă spiți să-i le adresați. Cred că sunteți curioși să aflați amănunte, deși cred că expunerea lui a fost destul de amănunțită. Vreau să întreb Roddy dacă i-a fost mai greu cu căldura sau cu frigul, dar m-am lămurit din expunerea lui unde a fost încercarea cea mai grea. Mulțumim foarte mult, Roddy. Întrebări? Cineva dorește?
So I think I can speak on behalf of everyone here and say that you're a true, real hero for everyone here, and thank you for being a source of motivation. My question would be, what's your motivation to do all of this? What's your inner strength? Why you do this? Having your condition is amazing how to finish all the races so far. Thank you.
If you remember throughout my talk, when I was diagnosed with type 1, I knew nothing about the condition. That really embarrassed me. So the reason I do this is for people like that 13-year-old girl in America, that if what I do changes people's attitudes of what can be achieved living with type 1, then it's worth all the hard work. I got off lightly there. Thank you very much. Oh.
It's a daily struggle. Hello, congratulations. So congratulations for first of all.
For these amazing races you've been through. It's a race, I think dealing with diabetes all day long for all your life, it's also a very difficult race also. So actually you're running in two races at the same time. I'm just wondering, how were you dealing with insulin? I mean, we know insulin is not working properly if it's, the temperature is too high or too low. And you actually mentioned that your insulin was frozen at the moment. You're not afraid it was not working any longer, or when it was too hot? Because it happened to me one summer. For 2 months I was feeling a very high levels of insulin because it was too hot outside and I didn't keep an eye on my insulin properly. I mean, it was not cool enough for it. So it's amazingly you managed to.
Throughout the races, because I'm the first type 1 to have done both the marathon, the Sabla, and the 6633, I'm having to make it up as I go along. I am literally having to just make it up as I go along. Now you mentioned one thing there that I took on board. I class myself as a very lucky type 1 diabetic. I've not had to live with it all my life. I was diagnosed at 40. I had a very, very successful cycling career. I didn't have to go through childhood and teenage years living with it. So I treat myself as a very lucky type 1. And if what I do changes people's attitudes, to even if they go to the gym twice a week or go around the golf course living with type 1, it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah, definitely. And do you monitorize your insulin, your blood sugar level with sensors or with
I've got CGM, Dexcom, but during the race, with 200 kilometres to go, over 200 kilometres to go, that completely failed. So that's when I needed to do test strips again.
Thank you very much.
One thing I didn't mention about the 6633, I didn't bolus for a single meal, which means I didn't take any insulin for any of my main meals throughout the race. Because I averaged 56, almost 100 kilometres a day, I averaged. So the exercise was doing the work of the insulin. So I had survived on almost no insulin throughout the race. So, one thing I'll finish on is I believe exercise is by far the best form of medication available. It's good for everything. So get active. Thank you.
And what is the next adventure for you, Roddy? What is the next adventure for you?
Again, 60.
I haven't completely ruled out going back to do the new route. There's a new route which to be won in 2018, and I'd love to go back.
Oh, okay.
The only thing is, both times,
No.
that's not on. The only thing about the 663 is I've had to make some compromises at home. The first year, my wife got a cat, and that was the condition. My wife had excess cat food, so she thought she would take it to the local place that holds pussycats and little dogs and things. So she took the food there, and she phoned me and goes, "Oh, there's a lovely little kitten, can we have it?" And I'm like, "Right, okay, you can have it in the condition I get to go back in 2017 to the 663. So my only fear is if I was to go back again, we'd end up with 3 muggies in the house." Thank you.
Thank you very much.